Hello guys, this is your friend Dark Verse. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto possessed the three greatest bloodlines, Uzumaki times Senju times Uchiha? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And no, start a new fanfic. Naruto walked down the street, hands in his pockets. It was a cool morning and he wore a long-sleeved high-collared black t-shirt with the Uzumaki crest emblazoned on its back. His gray pants were wrapped with bandages around the ankles and he wore his standard-issue blue Shinobi sandals. Over the past 2 years he had changed a lot training under Itachi. But he showed less emotion around people and the opinions of the villagers who hated him because of the Kyuubi hadn't changed much. They still glared and muttered names behind his back. But at least he now knew the reason for their behavior. He didn't pay them much attention to them, only hoping they would change their attitude towards him one day. He had also improved in skills. Itachi had taught him the Uchiha clan taijutsu style, the interceptor fist, that capitalized on the Sharingan's ability to predict an opponent's movements, which he later combined with his hummingbird style, creating his own personal taijutsu style unrecognizable from the other two. In recent times, though, he had begun to notice little change in Itachi and Shisui's natures. They both seemed restless and were always in some kind of tension. Itachi had told him that some kind of tension had been building up between the Uchiha clan and the village higher-ups, though he didn't know the reason for that but hoped that everything would settle down soon. Today he was starting his new year in the Ninja Academy and was happy and a little nervous going there. Happy because the academy instructor had seen his progress and advanced him to the final year so that he could graduate and became a genin at the end of the year. Nervous because he didn't know how his new classmates would react towards him. The senior class students had always tried to bully him and it had always ended with him getting in trouble with the Hokage. Realizing he was getting late for class, he picked up his pace and started hopping through roofs to get there. He arrived at the academy minutes later and started searching for the class the Hokage had told him to go to. After some time he finally found a room with number 207 on the class door. Finally, he muttered. He was a little late and quickly went to knock on the door when he heard a familiar voice from inside that he couldn't quite place. "Yes, please come in," the voice said. Naruto opened the door and was surprised to see Iruka standing there. He had never expected to meet him here. He also noticed that all the students were looking at him, probably wondering who he was and why he was there. "Oh, you finally arrived. I was waiting for you. Come here," Iruka said, smiling, and motioned him to come near. Apparently, the Hokage had given Iruka the final year class to teach to ensure nothing negative happened to Naruto. Naruto went over to him and faced the whole class, which was still looking at him with confusion. "He is a new student here and will be joining us from today," Iruka informed the rest of the class. Then turning towards Naruto, he said, "Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?" Naruto nodded to him and faced the class with a stoic look and spoke. "Good morning everyone. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am looking forward to spending this year with you all." He bowed at the end. Iruka smiled at Naruto and was about to say something when someone shouted in the class. "Hey, what do you mean he's new student? He looks younger than all of us." Iruka sighed at that before responding. Yes, he was in the junior class but because of his performance the academy instructors with the Hokage's permission promoted him to the final year's class. "But that's so unfair, sensei. We spent so many years with those boring lectures and he just skipped them." A brown-haired girl with red markings on her face whined from her seat. Iruka finally had enough of it and said frustratingly, "That's enough. He is here because Hokage-sama allowed him to be, so you don't have any say in. Settle down." He then looked at Naruto and spoke. "You can go and sit, Naruto." Naruto nodded and went to sit in an empty chair at the back. As he was going there, he noticed some of the students were glaring at him and some were looking at him curiously. He didn't say anything and just went to sit quietly, waiting for Iruka-sensei to start the lecture. Okay. So before we start, I want to inform you all that as this is your last year in the academy, you will be learning some basic academy ninjutsu, Iruka informed them. When Iruka started his lecture, Naruto noticed that a couple of students were still glaring at him, and he remembered that they were the ones who had tried to bully him in the past. He paid them no mind and looked at his right, noticing a boy sitting there. The boy wore a bandana which covered his head and had a bang hanging in the middle between his eyes. He realized he didn't know anyone in the class and then noticed that some of the students had clan symbols on their clothes. At lunchtime, Naruto sat on the school terrace looking at everyone from above. He already met his former classmates who had come to congratulate him for advancing in the academy, and now he was here alone. When he noticed some students coming over to him, he came out of his thoughts. Hey you, what are you doing up here alone by yourself? It was the girl from the group with brown hair and red marking on both her cheeks. Naruto looked at them and he remembered them from his class earlier. I was sitting here, he responded. We're with you in the same class, your name is Naruto Uzumaki, right? It was the same girl who spoke. Hi. Naruto nodded. They all smiled at him. Well, my name is Hana Inuzuka of the Inuzuka clan, she said. My name is Hayate Gecko, said a boy who wore a simple outfit with a long-sleeved, red-colored haori, pants with bangles around his wrist and legs, and a bandana over his head. Naruto nodded and looked at the final member of the group. My name is Yugao Azuki. She had straight, purple hair going down her shoulders, and wore a white-colored shirt with brown pants. Naruto looked at her a little longer. He had never seen anyone with that hair color, and she was really pretty. Yugao narrowed her eyes a little, noticing him looking at her hair, and she growled at him. What are you looking at? Naruto looked away as he was caught staring at her, but noticing that she was getting angry with him, he quickly responded. Nothing. It's just that your hair is really pretty, I've never seen anyone like that. As he said that, Yugao just looked at him, and then looked away to hide her blush. Right after that, though, she looked at him again and decided to tease him a little. She leaned forward a little, raised a single eyebrow, and asked with an innocent look. Hey, are you trying to hit on me, huh? What? Naruto spoke with wide eyes and a blush on his face. But I think you're too young and you're even shorter than me, Yugao said as she measured her height with him and then patted his head. And you even look a little girly to me. Hana and Hayate were barely holding back their laughter at Naruto's priceless expression. Yugao herself was also barely holding back her laugh. Naruto, on the other hand, had a small blush on his face, and at the same time his eyes were also twitching listening to her comments, but he composed himself a moment later and swapped her hand from his head. Why are you all here? He asked, looking at her. What? I thought you'd be interested in talking to me, Yugao said, trying to look hurt. Both Hana and Hayate couldn't hold it anymore and burst out laughing. But when they both calmed down, Hana decided to save Naruto from any more embarrassment. She spoke. That's enough, Yugao stopped teasing him. Yugao giggled in response and spoke. Fine. She then looked at Naruto, smiled genuinely, and said, but thanks for the compliment anyway, you're the first one ever to compliment me on my hair. Why are you here? Naruto asked them once again. Hayate responded. Well, we're hanging out here and noticed you sitting here alone, and we decided to introduce ourselves and get to know you a little. After all, we're in the same class, right? Naruto nodded at him. Then Hana asked, so what are you doing here alone? Don't you want to hang out with your friends? Friends, he thought, looking at them. He had never had any friend in his life. Sure, he used to hang out with his former classmates, but he couldn't call them his friends. He wasn't sure he really understood the meaning of friend. I don't think I have any friends, responded Naruto. They looked at him for a moment before Yugao spoke. You're a little weird one, you know that. Hey, then why don't you join us? It'll be fun, Hana said with a big smile on her face. Naruto thought it over a little and responded. All right, but I don't want to go anywhere at the moment, so if you guys don't mind, can we just sit here? They all nodded then started talking. You know, Naruto, we don't know anything about you other than your name, Hayate spoke. Well, what do you want to know about? Naruto asked. Well, just a little about yourself, what you like in your dreams for the future. Hana responded. Naruto thought it over before he said. I like ramen from Ichiraku. I hate when people judge others without knowing them, and as for my aim in life, I want to become the Hokage and surpass one particular person. Impressed looks crossed their faces, but they didn't ask him who he wanted to surpass. Man, you really have big dreams in your life, Hayate said. Dreams don't really come true. They're just wishful thinking, nothing more. But what I have is a goal which I will achieve one day, Naruto responded confidently. They smiled at him. You must be strong, already in the final year this early. I bet your parents must be really proud of you, Yugao said. Suddenly a sad expression came on Naruto's face and he looked away, not wanting them to see. It was always a hard topic for him that he never had the chance to know his parents. How could he know if they would have been proud of him or not? I don't know, I think, he muttered, still not looking at any of them. Han, what do you mean? Yugao asked in confusion. I never got to know them, they both died on the day of my birth, he said. All three looked at him with wide eyes and Yugao quickly apologized. I'm sorry Naruto, for bringing them up. Naruto shook his head and responded. You don't have to apologize, you didn't know. She nodded but her face looked troubled. Hana decided to change the subject. We should get going, the break is about to be over in a couple of minutes. They all nodded and walked towards their classroom together for the rest of the lectures. Evening time. Later, Naruto was in the training field with Itachi and Shisui, relaxing after his training session with them. Talking about them, he also had noticed that Itachi and Shisui had started spending less and less time with him, always busy with their Anbu missions and always under some kind of stress and acting cold. He hoped everything would get normal soon enough. Shisui was one of his most trusted comrades, after the Hokage and Itachi, and he had even confided in him about his Sharingan. Just like Itachi, Shisui was shocked at first and didn't believe them, thinking they were joking with him. But later he realized that it was truth and promised to keep it a secret. Naruto looked up at the sky and watched the clouds. It didn't matter whether it was sunset or a night sky full of stars and a moon. He always felt relaxed looking at the sky. He was interrupted out of his thoughts by Itachi. So how was your day in the academy? Well, nothing much interesting. Just a normal day. But I met some students from my class and they invited me to hang out with them, Naruto responded. Itachi and Shisui both smiled at him, then Shisui said with a grin. Did you listen Itachi, our little Naruto-chan made some new friends in the academy. Naruto glared at him. Stop calling me that Shisui baka, and besides, I wouldn't call them my friends. They're just my classmates. Itachi shook his head. You sometimes think too much. You should bond with other kids of your age. Look who's talking about friends, the ever-great stoic-looking Itachi Uchiha, Shisui muttered under his breath with a deadpan look. Itachi glared at him. But a shinobi shouldn't get himself attached with other people. Naruto responded. We are all humans Naruto. The emotions and bonds we form don't make us weak, they make us strong, Shisui said. You want to become Hokage so that you can protect the village and get people to acknowledge you, right? But why would you protect the village when you don't hold any attachment? But when you have even one person, then you will go beyond your abilities to save them and they will do the same for you. Naruto nodded in understanding. Just remember that, true strength comes when you have something to protect, Shisui quoted. Well, I guess I could at least try to make friends, Naruto muttered. Itachi noticed it was getting late and mentioned to both. We should get going, it's getting late. Shisui nodded and said, yeah, you guys go, I have to report back to the HQ. Itachi and Naruto nodded at him and Naruto went to stand up. ARGG. He held his right leg in pain. You injured your leg in the training, Itachi spoke and looked at his leg. Well, Shisui Baka hits really hard, Naruto responded. Would you stop calling me Baka, you squirt? Shisui growled. Naruto glared at him and said. And you stop calling me squirt. But you are a squirt. Shisui pointed towards his height and Naruto growled at him. No, I am not, I am only 9 Yubaka. Itachi wrapped the bandage around his leg and then picked him up bride style. Hey, put me down. I can walk on my own, Naruto said in embarrassment. Itachi smiled a little then looked at Shisui with a serious look and nodded at him. Shisui also nodded in response and said, Don't be late, Itachi. He then went off in his own direction. Itachi walked off the training field towards the streets, which were empty because of the late hour. He was laughing at Naruto, who was on his back with a pouting face. It's not funny, Naruto said. I'm sorry, Itachi apologized but still laughed a little. But I'm just happy. You're really like a kid brother to me. So being able to take you under my wing like this makes me happy. Naruto smiled at him in return and listened as Itachi continued. I know you also think of me as your older brother and depend on me for anything. Itachi was right. He really did depend on Itachi for anything and saw him as his own big brother, but in recent times he felt that Itachi was getting further away from him and he couldn't do anything about it. Itachi, he said, deciding to voice his concern. Itachi looked at him on his back. I was meaning to ask you about your behavior. You always look stressed and always come late for training now. Is everything alright with the clan? Naruto asked in concern. Itachi didn't look at him. He had already informed the Hokage about this and he and Shisui were doing the best they could to control the situation, but it was getting really hard day by day. Tension between the Uchiha clan and village higher-ups is still very high. They suspect that the Uchiha clan was behind the Kyuubi attack. Meanwhile, the clan is thinking that they are losing their power in the village and are making unnecessary demands. Hokage-sama is doing his best as he could but it's still not enough. Itachi informed him. So what are you going to do about it? Naruto asked. Truthfully I don't know yet, but you don't have to worry about anything, we'll figure something out. Itachi assured him with a smile. I'm just worried about you and Shisui, Naruto muttered, tightening his hold on him. Itachi smiled a little in response. You must be tired from all the training we did today. Go ahead and sleep, but there's one thing that's certain. At this Naruto's eyes started to close but he did listen to what Itachi said at the last as he smiled and closed his eyes fully. I will never, ever betray you. 6 months later. It had been 6 months since he had started his final year class, and he had already impressed everyone in his class with his skills and was now at the top of the class. He started to hang out with Hayate, Hana and Yugao, and even met a couple of the other students. He even started consider them as his close friends, though Yugao still teased him whenever she got a chance and Hana also joined her now, but he still enjoyed spending time with them. He even went on to train with them after the academy sometimes and seeing him making friends, Hiruzen, Itachi and Shisui were all happy for him. He was now sitting in the class and next to him sat Yugao, who seemed to be paying close attention to what Iruka was teaching. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts by Iruka when he heard his name. Naruto, would you tell the class which jutsu this hand sign is used for? Naruto looked at the hand sign on the board, then answered. It's for water style, water bullet jutsu. Very good Naruto, as always. Iruka complimented him with a smile. Some of the kids glared at him and Yugao looked him at the corner of her eye and smirked. Wow, Naru, you're so smart. Naruto sighed at her teasing game. Would you stop that Yugao? He glared at her. Yugao just giggled in response. Naruto and Yugao, don't disturb the class and pay attention closely. Iruka scolded them. They both apologized to him and went on listening to him. After some time, the class ended and Iruka called out to everyone. Well, now we have physical class and we are going out for some one-on-one fights. Uruka then took everyone towards the training ground and motioned them to stand in a straight line. I will be calling out names and we will pair the opponents like this, alright. He then called out the first pair and the fight went on for some minutes. After that, some more fights went on and Naruto observed from the sidelines. This was the first time he had seen any of them fight. He was impressed with Yugao, Hana and Hayate. As they beat their opponents, he congratulated them on their performance. He wondered if the other students were interested in seeing him fight. Finally, it was his turn as Uruka called him forward with another student. The other students were muttering amongst themselves about how he would do against last year's topper, but he ignored them as he stepped in the circle and looked at his opponent, waiting for Uruka to start the match. They both made the confrontation seal with their hand. Both fighters ready. They both nodded. Hajime. Uruka started the fight. Naruto's opponent wasted no time in attacking him and went to punch. Naruto quickly sidestepped so the punch would miss him, and continued to block and dodge the attacks. Soon, his opponent started to get frustrated and lose his concentration as match dragged on. With every attack, Naruto would either block his punch or dodge his attacks. Naruto could read his opponent's attacks clearly. He wasn't using the Sharingan but still could see it clearly because of regular training with Itachi and Shisui. Suddenly, taking advantage of his opponent's lack of concentration, he went under his defense and kicked him hard in the stomach, sending him staggering back. He then pushed him down and held a punch in front of his face. All the present students looked on with wide eyes. Even his friends were looking at him in shock. Uruka himself looked impressed. Winner Naruto Uzumaki. Then Naruto and his opponent offered each other the reconciliation seal in respect. Naruto went over to stand with the other students, but just as he came to a stop, Hana held him in a headlock and messed his hair as she teased him. Hey look Yugao. Our little Naru is such a prodigy. Yeah, I didn't know our Naru was so strong. Yugao spoke and looked at Naruto with an innocent look. You're not going to force us to call you Naruto-sama from now on, are you Naru? The other students were looking at their interaction with amusement and Uruka himself seemed to be holding his laugh. Naruto on the other hand was getting embarrassed by all the attention he was getting. He released himself from Hana's hold. Get off me woman, and glared at both of them. The others laughed at his embarrassment and he tried to hide his face from them. Finally, Uruka decided to stop this. Alright, that enough everyone. Unknown to Naruto, though, was that someone else was looking at him from the terrace and was smiling happily at his interaction with his fellow classmates. Itachi smiled sadly and gave him a last glance before disappearing in the wind. Naruto looked towards the terrace, suddenly feeling that someone was watching him from up there. But seeing nothing, he assumed it was only his imagination as he followed the others towards the classroom. That night, Naruto was in his apartment lying on the bed. He was thinking over his day but he couldn't shake the feeling that something very bad was going to happen. Even Itachi and Shisui hadn't come to the training ground today. But thinking about it, he realized he hadn't really seen Shisui for a week and he had only met Itachi a couple of times during the week. He heard a knocking sound on his window and immediately pulled a kunai, but soon relaxed when he noticed that it was a crow. He only knew 2 people who used crows. He went to open the window and the crow quickly came inside and circled around a bit before it was followed by more crows, until they all seemed to merge and Itachi formed in his room. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Itachi was in his Anbu uniform but it was the amount of blood covering him and his clothes that caused the shock. What happened Itachi? What is all this about? He then noticed the tears marking Itachi's cheeks. Itachi first went toward the window and closed it, then turned towards Naruto who was still looking at him with a shocked expression. Calm down Naruto-kun. What's going on Itachi? Why are you here like this? What happened? Naruto asked hurriedly. Itachi smiled at him a little. I come here to see you. Naruto noticed his smile and knew it was fake. Why? I am leaving Naruto-kun, Itachi responded. Where are you going? And why is there so much blood on you? Naruto asked, getting a bad feeling about all this. Itachi walked up to him and kneeled down to his level. I am leaving the village. As for the blood, he stopped and looked at his clothes. I slaughtered the whole Uchiha clan, leaving my brother Sasuke the only survivor. I am now a traitor to the village. Naruto froze on the spot. He couldn't believe it. His mind went blank and he didn't know what to think. He stepped back a little and looked at Itachi in complete shock, and didn't notice when tears began to flow from his eyes. He then grabbed Itachi by his collar and glared at him. What the hell are you talking about? Why would you do something like that, and where is Shisui? Itachi tried to calm him down by putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. I had no other choice. You're talking nonsense. Where the hell is Shisui? Naruto asked loudly, losing his patience. Shisui is dead. He died a week ago, Itachi answered him, and Naruto looked at him with another shocked expression. How? Naruto asked weakly. Itachi pulled Naruto into a hug and spoke. Me and Shisui were both double agents. The Uchiha clan was plotting a revolt against the village to gain power, and my father told me to supply the village secrets to the clan, but I told Hokage-sama and the elders. I became their spy in the clan, but the clan started to suspect me, so they ordered Shisui to keep an eye on me. They didn't know he was working with me to stop the clan from completing their plans. Now it was starting to become clear for Naruto. This is why they had both looked stressed and had been coming late for training. This explained their cold behavior sometimes. But how could you kill the whole clan? I had no other option. If I didn't, then the village would be caught up in a civil war, and other nations could try to take advantage of that. I needed to prevent another shinobi war. Itachi responded. But that was your own clan, Naruto protested. The clan is not more important than the whole village, Naruto. I am Itachi Uchiha of the Leaf first. The Uchiha clan comes second. But you can't leave me, and what about your brother Sasuke? Naruto tried to reason with him. I'm sure Jii-chan can do something to help you out. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. Don't you remember you once told me that being shinobi means self-sacrifice? That's what I'm doing. This is my sacrifice for the betterment of the village. But I don't want you to leave me, Naruto cried. Don't worry, Naruto. I am sure you and Sasuke both will be fine. You still have people here who care about you. Itachi then hugged him tightly as tears flowed from his eyes. I must be going now. Hokage-sama is preparing for my leave. I will be supplying information by infiltrating the enemy lines, and I'll leave the village to you. Wait. Please don't go, Nisan. Naruto tried to stop him. You're just like me, Naruto. I know you'll understand me. Just remember that the nameless individuals who maintain peace from the shadows are true shinobi. Shisui taught us both that. Then he tapped Naruto's forehead with his 2 fingers. And don't worry too much, we'll meet again one day. Then his body started dissolving into individual crows, and he gave one final smile to Naruto before fully dispersing. Naruto dropped to his knees and cried. He felt the seal around his eyes disappear, and his Sharingan activated as Tomo started to shift. That night, he gained a 3rd Tomo in both his eyes as they started spinning madly before stopping to show a fully mature Sharingan. Itachi, Shisui, I promise that I will become a true shinobi just like you both and protect this village with everything I have till my last breath. This is my promise as Naruto Uzumaki of the village hidden in the leaves. A week later, Naruto was standing in the training field looking at the big stone with Shinobi written on it in kanji. He had been standing there for an hour, just looking at the stone. It had been a week since Itachi left the village and was now marked as S-rank criminal for his crime against the village. Hiruzen had talked with him and explained everything in detail as Itachi told him. He knew the truth, but Hiruzen had asked him to keep it secret. He didn't talk to anyone properly and became more quiet, even acting cold with his friends. The whole village was cursing Itachi for what he did, and he thought bitterly that the person the whole village is cursing for killing their precious Uchiha clan was actually the one who saved them and their families. Shinobi don't fight for personal glory. Nameless individuals who maintain peace from the shadows are the true shinobi. He thought, remembering what Itachi had told him that night. Hey, Naruto. He looked to his right and noticed Yugao running towards him and waving to get his attention. He just looked at her as she come to stop in front of him and catch her breath. I was looking for you. She waited for his response but got nothing in return, so she shook her head. Well, anyway, me and Hana are going to the dango shop to get something to eat. Do you want to join us? Naruto didn't respond to her and walked past her. I have to go for my shuriken jutsu training. Yugao looked sad at his refusal. Well, alright then, so you want to hang out later? He just continued walking. Some other kids from their class were also watching this, but he didn't care. Hey, you think you're better than us, huh? One of them shouted. Naruto continued to walk, not paying them any attention. Answer us, damn it. I hate your attitude. Always trying to show off. Another one shouted when he didn't respond. My mother told me that the Kyuubi attack was all you're doing. The same kid spoke. My father died in that attack, you monster. First, false charges, then a broad interpretation. It was precisely in these kinds of human feelings that the origin of war lay. A person wants to bury somehow the sense of loss after losing someone they love. This feeling, a feeling they don't know how to vent, snatches away their power of judgment, and runs wild. And then they hurt someone. Each and every word out of the older boy's mouth made Naruto feel more and more weighed down. But still not stopping. You're not going to listen like this, huh? That's fine. We have other ways to get you talk. One said with smirk. Hey, leave him alone, Yugao demanded. They paid her no mind and threw a rock towards his head. Naruto dodged it without even looking. They started to throw more rocks at him and he continued to dodge. The thought of fighting them crossed his mind suddenly. It wouldn't take him even 3 minutes to beat down these fools. But if he decided to fight them now, then he wouldn't be able to stop himself from killing them. These students didn't understand that the institution of school was protecting them. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it now, Yugao demanded. Don't worry, we're just playing here and he's a tough guy. He can handle it, one of them responded calmly. Naruto suddenly turned around, jumped and caught the rock in his hand, then threw it back at them, deflecting all the rocks they had hurled midair, and hitting the final rock from the hand of the kid in front. They all looked at him with shocked expressions and didn't say anything. Naruto then turned around and walked off the field. Please, talk to me, Naru. Yugao thought with a concerned look. Time skip. Graduation day. It was finally the day they were going to graduate the academy and became genin. They were all sitting in the class talking with each other to pass the time while waiting as Iruka began calling students one by one for the ninjutsu exam. They had already finished with the written test and shuriken and kunai throwing, and now it was time for the ninjutsu part. Naruto was sitting alone at the corner bench next to the window waiting for his chance. He was looking out of the window and not paying attention and showing not the least bit of worry about the exams. He was fully confident with himself to pass the exam without much effort. His friends were talking among themselves and looking at Naruto from the corners of their eyes time to time. His behavior hadn't changed much and his friends still didn't know the reason, as Naruto kept his personal life to himself and hadn't shared with anyone. He didn't even talk to them much anymore and had started spending less and less time with them by training alone. Hey Broody-kun, are you ready for the ninjutsu portion of the exam? Hana asked Naruto playfully. Naruto looked at her, not liking being called broody, and responded. Hana, would you please stop calling me that? Yugao and Hana both giggled at his response as they still teased him whenever they got a chance. I would if you would at least try to be more open and talk with us. We're your friends, after all. Hana stated to him with a smile. I'm talking to you guys. Naruto responded. Really? Yugao asked with a deadpan expression on her face. She then shook her head and asked. Anyway, are you ready for the ninjutsu part? Naruto nodded. I am ready. I'm not going to fail, that's for sure. I think you shouldn't be talking about failing the exam, Naruto. As far the results show, you were top in everything, Hayate pointed out. Yugao put her head on the desk in depression. Who would have thought that a kid younger than us would show up out of nowhere and outrank us all? I hate you so much, Naru, she muttered. Naruto responded calmly. Instead of showing your hate towards me, you should have spent more time in your training. Yugao glared at him for his response and muttered. Smartass. Naruto just shook his head at her. He looked at the door as it opened and in walked one of the student with leaf headband in his hand, showing that he had passed the exam. He looked at Naruto and said, It's your turn, Naruto. Naruto just nodded at him and stood up to go, but before he could walk, a hand grabbed his wrist to stop him. He looked at Yugao who held his wrist. She smiled at him and said, All the best, Naruto. Both Hana and Hayate also nodded at him with smiles. He freed his hand from Yugao's hold and muttered, Thanks, and walked off. He arrived in the class where Iruka sat with a couple more instructors. He came and stood in front of them. Good, you're here, Naruto. Iruka greeted him with a smile before continuing. Now for the final part, you need to perform 3 techniques. First, let's start with substitution jutsu. Naruto nodded before channeling chakra to perform the jutsu. He substituted himself with a nearby chair, then subsided back again to his standing place. The instructors nodded with satisfaction and Iruka said, Good, now, transformation jutsu. Naruto made the hand seal and muttered, Transform. Soon smoke covered him before it cleared and showed the third Hokage instead of him. Iruka examined him and nodded in satisfaction with his perfect jutsu. Then Iruka spoke. Very good, Naruto. As for the next jutsu, I already know you can perform this jutsu, but you still have to show me just for the formalities, so just make clone of yourself. Naruto made a cross-hand seal and called out the jutsu name, Shadow Clone Jutsu, and made 6 perfect-looking clones of himself. The instructors all looked impressed at his performance and Iruka smiled at him proudly. Congratulations, Naruto. You passed the exam with flying colors, here's your headband. Wear it with pride. Naruto smiled at him before accepting the headband and tied it on his forehead. He then bowed to them in respect and spoke. Thank you, sensei. They smiled and nodded to him and Naruto exited the class happily. He arrived back in his class and went towards his seat. When his friends noticed his leaf headband, they smiled happily and congratulated him for passing the exam and started talking among themselves. After some time, Iruka walked in the class and told everyone to settle down so he could speak. Congratulations everyone on passing the exam and becoming genin, but this is just a start of your career, so I wish you best of luck. And one more thing I would like to announce is that we had many good performances this year, but there was one student to surpass all the other performances and come on top. They listened to him closely. The rookie of the year is Naruto Uzumaki. The class looked at Naruto in shock. He was younger than them, and had arrived just a year ago in the class, and yet he outclassed them all by becoming the rookie of the year. His friends also looked at him, but Naruto just sat calmly. He knew it was just the start and that he would face far stronger tasks in the future. The graduation exams were over and Naruto was waiting for class to start for the last time. Sitting at his usual place beside the window, he looked much the same as he always had, but he now wore the sword on his back that Itachi had gifted him, along with fingerless gloves and 2 kunai holsters attached to the back of his waist. Today was the day they would be put in teams and assigned a Junin sensei, and he hoped that whichever team he was put on wouldn't slow him down. Good morning, Naruto. Naruto turned and saw his friends settling down beside him. He nodded to them and noticed both Yugao and Hayate also wore swords on their backs. I never knew that you both were interested in kenjutsu. You never mentioned it before. You never asked, Yugao responded straightly. We both trained with each other because we both want to become kenjutsu specialists. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her but then shrugged it off. Everybody had their own secrets. After all, he himself had kept almost everything about himself a secret from them. He also noticed Hana, but this time she was not alone. 3 dogs walked beside her. He had never seen them before but knew the Inuzuka clan worked with ninja dogs as their partners. Hana noticed him looking at her companions and introduced them to him. You don't know my partners, Naruto-kun, since you've never been to my house. These are the 3 Heimaru brothers. Naruto just nodded at her and her companions. When he didn't say anything, Yugao's eyes started to twitch and she bonked him over his head with her fist. You idiot. Don't just sit there. Introduce yourself to them. She spoke in annoyance. Naruto rubbed his head where she had hit him and muttered under his breath. You don't have to hit me for that. But he shut up when Yugao narrowed her eyes and began to look mad. He then quickly looked at the triplets and introduced himself, not wanting to get her more angry. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am friends with Hana. The triplets barked at him happily and jumped at him, licking his face in response. Naruto's friends laughed seeing this. Look, they already like you, Naruto, Hana said. Naruto smiled at them and rubbed their heads softly with his hand. Their attention turned towards the door then as Iruka walked in with some files in his hand. By this time, everyone had arrived and were sitting talking with each other. Good morning everyone, Iruka said. It's good to see you all once again. This is our last day together in the academy as you all are genin now and will be put in selected teams. But before announcing your teams, I would like to say something to you all. He stopped for a moment and looked at everyone. You're only genin, so don't get big heads. Train hard from now because this is just a start. You'll face many challenges from now on in your life, so be prepared for them and don't take it easy. Listen to your superiors, trust your teammates, and I am very proud to be part of this batch. Now, coming back to your teams, listen up closely. Team 1. Iruka started announcing the teams. Naruto listened for his name, hoping to be put on a decent team. Then finally, he heard it. Team 12 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Hana Inuzuka, and Yugao Azuki. The 3 looked at each other. Naruto smiled, very much satisfied with his team. He knew both Hana and Yugao were strong and he could trust them and could work with them without any problems. Now he just hoped they could get a good sensei. Suddenly, a hand came around his neck. He looked at his right and noticed Yugao with that look on her face which he had gotten so used to. She moved closer to him and spoke with a big smile. See Naru, even destiny couldn't keep us apart. Naruto blushed at this and muttered under his breath. Why me? Apparently, he was still going to be tortured by both Yugao and Hana. They still didn't know when to stop. Now you all have to wait here until your assigned squad leaders come to pick you up, Iruka said when he had finished announcing the teams. And once again, good luck everyone. I wish you all a successful career ahead. With that, Iruka collected his things and left the class. While they were waiting, Naruto turned towards Hayate. Which team were you put on? I didn't hear. Hayate just pointed towards his teammates, Izumo and Katetsu. Naruto had hung out with them before and knew they were very good friends with Hayate. Izumo, Katetsu, it's good to see you guys again. Naruto said, greeting them. They both waved at him in response. I guess you were too busy with your girlfriend to even notice us, Izumo then said. Naruto glared at him while the others laughed until finally some Junin started to arrive. Hokage office. Observing Naruto through his crystal ball, Hiruzen was happy that he had made some wonderful friends, but he wished the boy would open up more with them. It's not always good to keep everything bottled up inside yourself, Hiruzen thought. So what do you think of him so far? Hiruzen asked the Junin who stood beside him. As you said, he doesn't talk much, but he still formed a close relationship with his friends. He doesn't trust people very fast, but he is very observant and is very intelligent. I believe he's always thinking 2 steps ahead, Hiruzen said. That has to be expected, the Junin commented. You don't get promoted through your academy years with an ordinary performance. Hiruzen nodded. I expect you to take care of him. That's the least I could do for him, the Junin said. His father was a very dear friend of mine. I may not have been able to be there for him in his childhood, but now I'll be there as his sensei to guide him. You'll have a difficult task ahead of you, Hiruzen then said. Perhaps. But now at least I can get that troublesome woman off my back, the Junin muttered. Then speaking more loudly, but if that's all Hokage-sama, I think I should get going to meet them. Hiruzen shook his head as his best Junin gave a casual wave and walked out of the office. Did every top shinobi have to be so weird? With that thought, he pulled out an orange-covered book and opened it to where he had left off, reading and giggling at the same time. Where the hell is our sensei? We're the only ones left here, Hana said in annoyance. He'll get here, Hana. Be patient, it's not that late, Yugao responded. A couple of minutes later, the class door opened and a shinobi wearing the Konoha standard-issue Junin uniform walked in. He had dark hair tied up into a spiky ponytail, dark eyes, and a goatee. But his most noticeable features were two scars on the right side of his face. The three genin looked at him in astonishment. Team 12, the Junin said. It was more of a statement than a question. They nodded. I'm your sensei. Follow me. He then exited the room and the three genin quickly followed him. Training field. When they arrived on the training field, their new sensei ordered them to sit down. The newly promoted genins quickly followed the order and then looked at each other, not knowing what to do next. Now what, sensei? Hana asked. Why don't we start with our introductions so we can get to know each other, he said, his voice slightly annoyed. We already know each other, sensei. Why don't you go first? Yugao suggested. The Junin shrugged his shoulders and muttered under his breath. Troublesome. Then he started. My name is Shikaku Nara. I'm the head of the Nara clan. My likes are playing shogi, being with my family, and finding time to take a nap without my troublesome wife nagging me. My dislikes are traitors. My goal is to help you towards your goals. He then pointed towards Hana. She nodded and started. The names Hana and Izuka and these little guys are the three Heimaru brothers. My likes are my family, friends, and annoying my little brother. I hate perverts and people who don't treat animals kindly, and my dream is to become a great medic kunoichi. Shikaku smiled and nodded in satisfaction at her. Now it's your turn, Purple-chan, he said, turning to Yugao. Yugao glared at him. My name is Yugao Azuki, not Purple. My likes are my friends and training in Kenjutsu. I also hate perverts, rapists, and Naruto's broody face. Naruto glared at her as she continued. My dream is to become a Kenjutsu specialist and a respected kunoichi. Now you go, Blondie, Shikaku said to the last member of his squad, who simply nodded in return. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I don't have any particular likes or dislikes, and my dream is to surpass all the previous Hokage and protect the Leaf Village and its will of fire and to live up to my ancestors' names. He spoke in a rush. Both Hana and Yugao looked at him in confusion at the mention of his ancestors. All they knew was that he had grown up in an orphanage. He never talked about himself with them even though they were friends, and they always felt upset that he didn't seem to trust them well enough to share anything personal. Shikaku also narrowed his eyes a little. He knows about his heritage. Hokage-sama never told me anything about that. He then grabbed his student's attention again. Well, it's good you all have your ambitions and are serious about your ninja careers, but before you guys call yourself ninja, you have to pass my special test. If you fail, you'll be sent back to the academy for one more year. But we already passed the genin exam in the academy. Why do we have to do an exam again? Yugao asked. Shikaku chuckled at her question and responded. You really believe that just by giving some answers on paper and doing a couple of low-level jutsu that you're ready to become genin? That's just to select the candidates who have potential to be genin. It's your Junin sensei who will decide if you will become a genin or not. So what do we have to do now to become a genin? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes. Hana and Yugao also nodded. Shikaku folded his arms and spoke in a lazy tone. Coming on to that part, as you see, I really don't want to be a sensei and babysit you guys. It's way too troublesome for me. His new students looked at him in shock. But I can't just send you back, so we will fight here and whoever impresses me well enough will stay on as my apprentice. The other two will go back to the academy. This shocked them even more. Was he asking them to betray each other? What? You can't do that. You can't just simply play with other people's careers just because you're too lazy to handle your responsibilities. Hannah said angrily. Haha. Of course I can. I can't lose my reputation because of you. So I'll just pick out the best one. Shikaku smirked. I won't do it. Yugao muttered under her breath and looked down. Shikaku raised an eyebrow. Did you say something, Purple-chan? I said, I will not fight you just for your amusement. She shouted as tears fell from her eyes. I won't compete with my teammates just so that I can be your student. I will gladly go back to the academy for one more year rather than have you as my sensei. Both Hana and Naruto looked at her in surprise. Naruto had never seen her cry before. Shikaku responded with a shrug of his shoulders. Well, that means less work for me. Now I only have two to select from. Go to hell. Hana shouted this time with a glare. I also don't want to be on your team. Then it's decided. Naruto, you'll be my apprentice and we'll be a two-man team from now on. Shikaku pointed towards both the girls. You two will be going back to the academy. Thanks for making it easier for me. They both glared at him with hate and then looked at Naruto. He was just sitting with his eyes closed, not paying them any attention. With expressions of disappointment, they gave one final glance towards Naruto before standing up to leave. I am sorry, Naruto said finally. They both stopped and looked at him. His eyes were closed and it appeared that he was talking to them. They both smiled a little sadly, but before they could say anything, Naruto opened his eyes. I'm sorry, sensei, but I can't leave them like this, he said. I never knew my family and never had any friends before I joined the academy. I was always alone, but when I joined the academy and met them, I slowly started to consider them as my friends. I don't have anything other than them in my life, and for me they're my family. From the shocked expressions on the girls' faces, they probably never expected him to say something like that. Smiles slowly appeared on their faces. One thing I learned in my life is to always cherish my friends, and what you're asking me is to just leave them behind for my own benefits. I can't do that. I'm sorry, sensei, but that is against my morals. I will go back to the academy with them. He bowed at the end and turned to leave. Shikaku, who had appeared shocked, now tried to mask his happy expression behind his lazy attitude and muttered. What a drag this is turning out to be. He shook his head. So if this is your final decision, I will give you one more chance to think it over again. I don't have to think more about it, my decision is final. Naruto said, and the three friends turned to leave. All right, come back you three. You all pass even though it is troublesome. Shikaku spoke with smile. The three genin turned around and looked at him in confusion but not without a little hope in their eyes. What do you mean, sensei? Yugao asked. Why do I have to repeat myself again? He muttered quietly before answering. What I mean is that you all pass and we're officially a team now. But how did we pass? I don't understand. We didn't do anything. Hana spoke in confusion. Your decision to stand with your teammates and not abandon them for your benefit is the reason you pass. Konoha village believes in teamwork and it's because of that we are one of the strongest villages in the elemental nations. I myself belong to the team Inoshika-cho, which is famous and feared for its teamwork. I know the importance of teamwork. Shikaku explained. Aren't we supposed to fight you to show you our teamwork? Naruto asked. Shikaku shrugged his shoulders before responding. It's no good, I believe that the teamwork develops with time. You can't just start working with each other in one day, but I wanted to see what your thoughts are about your teammates and if you'd be able to work together in the future. Also, fighting you all will be too troublesome. This gained a sweat drop from the three genin. He's not joking about that. He really is lazy, Hana whispered to Yugao and Naruto. So we really pass then, for real? Yugao asked. Why do you guys keep asking the same thing again and again? You pass already, but if you still want to go back to the academy, I can arrange that easily. Shikaku responded tiredly. Both Yugao and Hana smiled and high-fived each other. Then Yugao turned to Naruto and put an arm around his shoulders. I never doubted that you cared about your Yugao-chan, Naru, so don't worry, I will never leave you, she said with smirk. Naruto blushed a little and pushed her away. Back off, pervert, and don't come near me. Yugao's face went bright red from embarrassment as she pointed her finger at him. I'm not a pervert. Don't call me that. Then stop touching me and keep your distance. Naruto responded. But didn't you say that you care about me? She asked with an innocent face. I never said anything like that, Naruto said. You did. I heard it clearly. She then turned to Shikaku, who was watching the scene with amusement. You also heard him say that in that amazing speech of his, right, sensei? I don't think he said anything like that, Shikaku said. Huh, if you didn't, then you didn't listen clearly, she said with a glare. She then turned back to Naruto and said with a smile. Don't worry, Naru, I heard you clearly, so you don't have to be shy in front of me. Naruto didn't know how to respond to her teasing, so he just folded his hands and snorted. HNN, and looked away. As this was happening, Hana and Shikaku watched with amusement from the side. Hana turned to Shikaku and said, You should get used to this from now on, sensei, because this is an everyday thing with those two. Troublesome, was his only response. Seeing they were not stopping though, he decided to step in. Alright, that's enough, you two, we are now officially a team. But we won't be getting a mission until tomorrow, so you wanna go for some barbecue to celebrate? The three genin nodded at him happily, but before they could move, Shikaku called them once again. You both go ahead. I want to talk to Naruto about something. We'll be just behind you, so you don't have to wait long. Both girls nodded with curious looks on their faces, but then left, giving only one glance back towards Naruto and leaving them alone to talk. Naruto looked at his sensei in confusion. What do you want to talk about? Shikaku stared at him for a little longer. The things you said about your teammates were very admirable. It's very good to see that you made such wonderful friends, and it's very good to finally meet you, Naruto. You're the spitting image of your father. Naruto narrowed his eyes, not fully trusting him. As far as he knew, only the Hokage, Itachi, and Jiraiya knew about his heritage. But he remembered that the Hokage had told him one time that some of his parents' friends were also aware of him. Even so, he was still not sure if he could trust him or not. You know who my father was? He asked. Shikaku nodded. He was one of my very close friends, and I am also aware of all his secrets. What secrets are you talking about? Naruto asked in suspicion. Don't be too surprised that he was my friend. I also know about your secrets and the one you keep hidden behind the seal. He pointed toward Naruto's eyes. How do you know about that? Only 3 people were aware of that till now. Naruto asked in shock. Shikaku nodded. Hokage-sama told me about that. I just wanted you to know that you can trust me with anything. I am here for you, and I especially asked you to be placed on my team, as that's the least I could do for you, for not being there before. Naruto could see that his sensei really meant what he said, and finally nodded in understanding. If my father and Hokage trusted you, then so can I. I'm finally meeting one of my father's friends. I hope you tell me about him, but I also don't want you to show me favoritism. Shikaku smiled and spoke. You've grown up well. Is this all you wanted to talk about, sensei? Naruto asked. Shikaku shook his head. I also wanted to know something. He stopped for a moment before speaking again. I wanted to know if your teammates know about you being a Jinchuriki. Naruto looked down. He had known he'd have to tell people close to him about his hidden secrets eventually. If he couldn't tell them, how could he expect them to trust him, especially now that they were a team and were supposed to trust each other with their lives? I just don't know how they would react after knowing the truth. I may not show it, but I really care about them and I don't want them to leave me and think of me like some people in the village do. Shikaku put a hand on his shoulder and smiled. You think too much, brat. Give them a chance. They will understand you. I've seen it today that they were both ready to go back to the academy so you could pass. Your teammates genuinely care about you, so don't you think they deserve to know about you? Naruto kept silent for a minute, wondering if he could really tell them. I'll think about it. Shikaku nodded and spoke lazily. We should get going. It's not good for our health to keep ladies waiting, it can be really troublesome. Naruto laughed a little at his sensei's comment but said nothing. He had seen both Hana and Yugao beating the shit out of people and didn't want to be on the receiving end. With Yugao and Hana, they both had arrived at the barbecue restaurant a couple of minutes ago and were waiting for their teammates. What do you think they're talking about? Yugao asked. Hana closed her eyes in annoyance as she had lost the count of how many times Yugao had asked the same question since they'd arrived. What's gotten into you? I already said I don't know. Just ask them when they get here. Yugao just shrugged her shoulders. I can't stop thinking why Sensei had to talk to Naruto in private and not in front of us. I also don't understand that, Hana said. During our team meeting I noticed Sensei kept eyeing Naruto from time to time. Yugao spoke. Hana looked at Yugao with a teasing expression. Hey, do you think our Sensei is a pervert who likes young boys? Yugao looked at her with a deadpan expression. Don't joke like that, I'm serious. Are you sure? I think you're jealous because of Sensei spending alone time with Naruto. Hana giggled. Yugao's eyes twitched and she glared. Stop talking nonsense. It's nothing like that. I don't believe you, the way you flirt with him. But I can't blame you, he is very cute. Just imagine how handsome he'll be in the future. Hana got a dreamy look on her face. Yugao blushed. It's nothing like that. Then she calmed herself before saying. It's just that I don't like his emotionless attitude. We don't even know anything about him other than his name, so I just try to get him to open up with us and I really like making him embarrassed. It's better than having a serious face all the time. What are you girls talking about? At their sensei's voice, they both looked up and noticed their teammates. Nothing much, sensei. It's just girl talk. Hana responded as Shikaku sat down beside her and Naruto climbed into the booth beside Yugao. What were you guys talking about? Yugao then asked Naruto. Naruto looked at her from the corner of his eyes. It's nothing you should worry about. What kind of answer is that? Yugao looked at him with a glare. Naruto just kept quiet. We already ordered the food. It should be arriving soon. Hana quickly informed them, and began asking Shikaku about the ninja missions. When the food arrived, they happily started eating, but Naruto stayed quiet, still thinking about the conversation he'd had with Shikaku and not sure if he could trust Yugao and Hana with his secrets. More than that, though, he was scared that they wouldn't understand him. Would you guys like to come to my house after this? Naruto asked suddenly. Shikaku looked at him silently, but both Hana and Yugao got shocked expressions on their faces. Yugao recovered and smiled. Of course, Naru, but why so suddenly? I wanted to talk with you both about something and I'm not comfortable speaking about it in public, Naruto responded. Well, alright then, Hana said. Naruto's apartment wasn't fancy, but it was very clean and well maintained. Wow, your house is so clean, Naruto. I can't even keep my room clean, Hana said, looking around. Are you sure about this, Naruto? Shikaku asked. Naruto nodded. I think you're right, sensei. They deserve to know the truth. I can't keep it a secret forever. Shikaku nodded in understanding, while Hana and Yugao both looked at them. What you guys talking about? Yugao asked as she looked at Naruto. What do you want to talk about, Naru? Naruto kept silent for a moment before closing his eyes. I know you guys think that I don't trust you enough to tell you about myself. They listened to him quietly. But you're my friends and you deserve to know some things about me, and if you guys decide to leave me after knowing the truth, I won't hold anything against you. Yugao smiled nervously and asked. Why would we leave you, Naru? Hana nodded with her. Naruto looked down. I was born on the 10th of October, on the night of the Kyuubi attack. Many in the village hate me and think of me as some kind of demon and Kyuubi reincarnation. How could they think of you as some monster just because you were born on that day? It doesn't make you any monster, Hana said. It's not because of that. You were told in the academy that the fourth Hokage killed the Kyuubi while sacrificing his life, but that's not true. What are you trying to say, Naru? Of course Lord Fourth killed the Kyuubi. And what's any of this have to do with you? Yugao asked nervously. I am just saying that what you were told in the academy wasn't true, Naruto said as he looked at her. He didn't kill the Kyuubi because the Biju can't be killed. How could you say that? Yugao asked. If he didn't kill the Kyuubi, then why would they tell us wrong? What do you know about it? Naruto closed his eyes and spoke. You can't kill the Biju, and even if you manage to kill the beast, they will just reform again, so all he could do was to seal it away. So the fourth Hokage sealed the Kyuubi in me and made me a Jinchuriki. With this, he pulled his shirt up and showed the seal on his stomach. They both looked at him with wide eyes and shocked faces. Then why would they say that the fourth killed the Kyuubi? Hana asked, her eyes brimming with tears. This time Shikaku answered. The fourth Hokage's last wish was for Naruto to be seen as hero for saving the village, but some people thought it was better to kill him than see him as some kind of hero. So the third Hokage passed down the law to never mention the truth about Naruto to the younger generation. Breaking the law results in death. At this, Yugao walked up to Naruto and slapped him hard on the face. Glaring at him with tears in her eyes, she spoke. Bastard! You could have told us earlier. I don't care if you have some monster sealed inside of you. You are still the same Naruto to me. I was scared, Naruto muttered. But seeing her look at him as she always had made him feel happy. I thought that if I told you guys, you would leave me. Yugao looked at him with softened eyes and hugged him tightly. I will never leave you, Naru. For me you will always be my cute Naru-chan. Naruto was shocked by the hug but relaxed and put his hand around her waist and returned her hug. Yugao smiled and tightened her hold on him. Hana walked up to them and put her arms around them both. Don't leave me behind. We are a team now. Shikaku smiled but didn't interrupt, looking relieved and proud. They released their hug and Naruto said, "Thank you guys." They both smiled at him, but Yugao asked, "But why would the fourth Hokage choose you? He didn't have any right to put such a burden on you." Naruto didn't say anything, but only looked away. Yugao narrowed her eyes at this. You already know something about this, don't you, Naru? Naruto just kept quiet until Yugao grabbed his collar and glared as she pulled him closer. I've had enough of your attitude and your secrets, brat, tell me now. Naruto looked at Shikaku for some help, but Shikaku's look told him, do what you want, I am not dealing with her. Hey, calm down a little, Yugao, Hana said. I want my answers, Yugao said, ignoring Hana. He can't just go and ask anybody to sacrifice their child, Naruto responded. He chose me because I am his son. Both Hana and Yugao looked at him in shock. Yugao released his collar and stuttered. Why you're F4th Hokage's son? Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Well, of course I'm his son. They both looked at his face closely. Well, you really look a lot like him, Hana said. Then she turned towards Shikaku and asked, seeing your reaction on this, does that mean that you're already aware of this, sensei? He nodded with a long sigh. I was aware of it from the start. His father was a very good friend of mine. Wow, Yugao said, inspecting his face closely. You really do look like the fourth, but I am not going to call you Naruto-sama. Naruto chuckled. I don't want you to address me like that just because of my father. Yugao smiled at him. That smile really looks good on you, Naru. Please smile a lot. Naruto looked away with a blush, not knowing if she was teasing him again or saying genuinely. It's good to see that you've taken the news so well, but keep in mind that you can't talk about it with other people. Those were all village secrets, and I should say everything related to Naruto is a matter of village security, so be careful. Shikaku's words got their attention. And I was going to tell my mother that I'm on the same team with 4th Hokage's son, Hana muttered. Shikaku looked at her. I don't think you have to tell her anything, she's already aware of his heritage. How does she know? Hana asked in shock. Most of the clan heads are aware of his parents' identities. We were all friends coming from the same class, and his mother was on the same team with your mother and a very good friend. Shikaku informed them. Really? Hana spoke in excitement. So that's why she's always keep telling me to invite Naruto to our home. Well, that's enough for today, Shikaku said. I'm going now. I expect you guys to be ready tomorrow for your first team assignment. He waved goodbye as he walked out the door. I should also get going. I have pick up my little brother from the academy. Hana said, leaving Naruto and Yugao. Yugao looked at Naruto. Sue, I don't have anything to do, you wanna go out for a walk? I don't see anything wrong with that, Naruto responded with a shrug. Was another beautiful morning in Konohagakure, and the newly formed Team 12 members waited at the training ground for their lazy sensei to arrive. Today would be their first mission as genin. Hana and Yugao were talking excitedly with each other and speculating about what kind of mission they would get, but Naruto stood quietly, his eyes closed, enjoying the morning sun on his face. After relieving such a heavy burden the day before when he had revealed one of his secrets to his teammates, he felt relaxed and lucky to have met people like them. Even after they had learned that he held the Kyuubi no Kitsune within himself and was the son of the 4th Hokage, they still treated him like they always had. He hadn't told them everything about himself, but that would come in time. The important thing was that he now felt that he could trust them with anything. Naruto-kun, Hana said. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at her as she spoke. So what kind of mission do you think we'll be getting today? I don't think they'll give us anything important or dangerous on our first day, he responded calmly. Don't be silly, Naru, you'll see, we'll be doing a dangerous mission, Yugao said with a small smirk. We're shinobi now, not academy students, and we can handle some serious stuff. But don't worry, I'll be there to protect you if anything happens. Naruto shook his head but didn't respond to her. Then Hana continued. You know, Naruto-kun, I had a talk last night with my mother. What does that have to do with me? Naruto asked her. Hana narrowed her eyes at him playfully. You still kept a lot of things hidden from us yesterday. Yugao looked at her with a confused expression. What things are you talking about? Naruto asked. I talked about what you told us yesterday and asked a bit about your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, and my mother told me that she was the granddaughter of the first Hokage Hashirama Senju, Hana said. That makes you his great-grandson. What? Yugao said in shock and looked at Naruto. Why, you're also related to the first Hokage? I don't think that's anything important, so I didn't mention it, Naruto responded calmly. Hana looked at him with a smile. I know that you have lot more secrets. But I just wanted to tell you that we understand and will wait for you to tell us more about you whenever you're ready. Naruto leaned his back against the training post and closed his eyes. So that's what you meant, when you said yesterday that you want to live up to your ancestors' names, Yugao muttered. You're so hard to figure, Naru. Naruto didn't respond, and a few minutes later, Shikaku arrived in a shunshin and greeted them lazily. Good morning, brats, you're pretty early. At least you could show some excitement, sensei, Yugao muttered in annoyance. We're going on our first ever mission today. Troublesome, he said in reply with the shrug of his shoulders. Anyway, let's get going. We have a long day ahead of us. Mission Office. Team 12 reporting for duty, sir. Shikaku spoke, coming to stand with his team in front of the Hokage, who was sitting with his advisors. He was really looking forward to this and couldn't wait to see the reaction of his genins, as during the whole walk Hana and Yugao had only talked about how they were going to fight some enemy shinobi or guard some important person. Oh, how he was going to love those shocked faces when they came to reality. Ah, Team 12, So you guys are here for your first mission today. The Hokage looked at each one in turn and settled on Naruto with a smile. But before that, I would like to have a talk with you both. The Hokage looked at the girls seriously, getting their full attention. Your sensei told me that Naruto shared some of his secrets with you, and I am very proud of you both on how you handled the news. I also hope that you will not mistreat his trust in you and will keep it a secret from others. We understand, Hokage-sama. Naruto is very dear friend and we are happy that he trusted us with such a big thing, and we will never do anything which puts him or our village in any danger, Yugao responded, and Hana nodded in agreement, getting a gentle smile from the elderly Hokage. I am happy that Naruto was able to make such wonderful friends, he continued. Anyway, coming back to your mission, let's see what we have. We have a request to babysit one of the council members' grandson, or walking dogs, or cleaning the river. As he went through the mission requests, the genin stared at him with wide eyes, as if he had grown a second head. Shikaku could tell by their faces exactly what they were thinking. They were ninjas now, surely the Hokage must be jockeying with them. They weren't going to do that kind of work. I think there must be some kind of mistake, Hokage-sama, Yugao interrupted. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow with an amused expression and Shikaku smirked. I mean, we are shinobi now. Surely we're not going to do those kinds of missions, right? I don't see anything wrong with it, Yugao-chan. These are all missions that will be assigned to the genin teams, the Hokage responded calmly. But how can they be called missions? Yugao stuttered. Anybody can do those. Don't question people who are superior to you, genin. You will do whatever mission you're ordered to do, without any questions. Kaharu, who was sitting next to the Hokage, scolded Yugao. Yugao looked down and apologized. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. Don't be too hard on them, Kaharu. It's their first day here, Hiruzen said in their defense as he looked at the young genins in front of him. These D-rank missions are assigned to every new genin team to build up their teamwork, and they also help increase village economy, so you see that they are very important. A mission is a mission, Hokage-sama. It doesn't matter what it is, Naruto stated with a stoic look, addressing the Hokage formally. Shikaku was glad for that, as it would not have looked good for Naruto to call the Hokage, Ji-chan, while he was on duty. But the Hokage sighed at Naruto's response and inwardly cursed Itachi for having so much influence on him. We will take a river cleaning mission, Hokage-sama, Shikaku said, wanting to get out of there, as it was beginning to get too troublesome for him. I can't take this anymore. Hana shouted in frustration as she stood in the middle of the river with a stick in her hand and a bucket on her back. You're not the only one, Yugao said. She then turned towards her sensei, who was lying under the shade of a tree with Hana's puppies. Come on, sensei, at least help us out here. Shikaku opened his eyes. This mission is for you guys to improve your teamwork. So stop complaining and finish up your work fast. We have other things to do after this. But sensei, this is wrong. Don't you see you're doing a crime by forcing child labor? I mean, look at him. Yugao pointed towards Naruto, who was working quietly. He looked up at the mention of his name. Don't you feel his pain? He's so small and just a child, and you're forcing him to do this cruel work. Naruto's eyes gleamed at her comment. If she wanted to tease him, he'd give it right back. Talk about yourself. I'm perfectly fine and I'm not some small child. I'm a shinobi. Oh right, you're a shinobi now, but you're still a small child. She pointed towards his height and grinned. Naruto glared at her. Until then, he had been working quietly and having a great time listening to all the complaining his two teammates were doing. But Yugao's teasing was too annoying to ignore. Why did people always mention his height? He was only 10. As I remember, you guys were talking about how you were going to fight an enemy shinobi or guard some important person, Naruto mocked. But you should be happy with this work. Standing in the middle of a river is about as dangerous as you two can handle. But don't worry, I'm here to save your sorry asses. Yugao and Hana in return glared at him and Yugao smirked. Don't try to act smart in front of me, Uzumaki. Besides, you should worry about yourself. I've heard there are ghosts around here who kidnap squirts like you, so be careful. Naruto felt a little shocked at her comment. She couldn't know he was scared of ghosts. Shisui used to tell him stories about them and how dangerous they are, but he had never told the girls of his fear. Don't joke like that, and let me do my work, Naruto responded, no longer wanting to continue the conversation. Then Hana smirked. Are you scared of ghosts, Naruto-kun? No, he replied quickly. Then why are you sweating, standing in the river? Yugao asked with a teasing smile. Both girls laughed out loud, and Naruto felt embarrassed that his attempt to mock them had backfired. What a drag, Shikaku muttered, looking at their interaction. Stop fooling around and finish up the mission. After doing few more D-ranked missions over the following days, Team 12 stood together at the training grounds. This is the worst possible start for of our career, Yugao stated tiredly. This is really child labor, sensei. Quit complaining, Purple-chan, Shikaku responded. You will be doing these types of missions until you're ready for something more advanced. From now on, we'll do some missions in the morning, and later we will do some training here to keep your skills up. The three genins nodded at him, and he continued. I want to know, have you guys completed the tree climbing and water walking exercises? Yup. My mother already taught that to me, Hana responded. Yugao also nodded. I've also completed that. Shikaku then looked at Naruto. He knew Naruto had the most chakra out of them all, so it could be difficult for him to control it, but the Hokage had told him that Naruto had spent some time training with Itachi and Shisui, and he wondered what they had taught him. I also know that, sensei, Naruto responded. Shikaku nodded, pleased. That meant less work for him, not having to explain all the chakra and chakra control things. He could now move on to some advanced training. That's good, it means you have decent chakra control to start training in your chakra element nature. He took out 3 papers from his pocket and held them in front of his students. Take these chakra papers and channel chakra into them. This will show us what element you have an affinity for. What does chakra element and affinity mean, sensei? Hana asked in confusion as she looked at the paper in her hand. There are 5 basic types of chakra elemental natures. They are fire, wind, water, lightning, and earth. Most people's chakra naturally leans toward a certain element. Shikaku explained. These slips of paper will help us find yours. It'll tear in half for wind, burn for fire, get soggy for water, crumble if you have earth, and if you're lightning nature, the paper will wrinkle. He then told them to channel chakra one by one, and it was Hana who was first. She channeled some of her chakra into the paper, and as a result, the paper crumbled. You got affinity for earth, Shikaku said. He then told Yugao to do the same. Her paper got soggy. So I got affinity for water, Yugao muttered. Then it was Naruto's turn, who quickly channeled his chakra into the paper, already guessing that the paper would burn, because of his ability to use fire-style jutsus. So he was surprised when the paper split in half and then both parts wrinkled. His teammates were also looking at him in surprise. That's quite interesting. It's quite a rare combination you got there, Naruto, Shikaku said with a raised eyebrow. Wait, what does that mean? Yugao questioned confusingly. It means he has an affinity for both wind and lightning, Shikaku responded. I can see that, sensei, but how can he have affinity for 2 elements? Yugao asked. You said that people's chakra nature leans towards a central element, and yet here he has 2 chakra natures. Well, that is true, but some people are gifted naturally with 2 elements. You can also develop your second affinity by training in it, and you can also do jutsu of other elements, but that will take too much chakra out of you at your stage. Most Junin have 2 chakra natures, as it is one of the requirements for becoming a Junin. Shikaku explained. But you also should be aware that all 5 chakra elemental natures balance each other out equally, Shikaku said. How? Hana asked. To put it simply, fire, water, lightning, Wind and earth each have an elemental advantage and disadvantage connecting them to the other elements, Shikaku explained. For example, fire is stronger than wind, but at the same time, it's weak against water. Each element has an advantage over another and is weak to another. Ah, this so complicated, Hana said, rubbing her forehead. You guys wanted something interesting today, so I decided to give you something, so don't bother me with it. Shikaku shrugged. I shouldn't be even teaching you about this. Many shinobi don't even start their elemental training until their chunin level. But you guys have enough chakra, so I decided to go with it. Sue, what are we going to do now, sensei? Naruto asked. Shikaku just shrugged his shoulders. Unfortunately for you guys, I am not a ninjutsu specialist, so I will have to arrange something for you all. But don't worry, I will get some low-level jutsu tomorrow for you to start with. Also, I am going to apply some weight seals on you three, so you will do your daily missions and training with the seals on, Shikaku added. It will help to increase your speed and improve your chakra control. He then applied the seals on them and activated them. At their activation, the genin suddenly struggled to stand straight. I think you're trying to kill us, sensei. At least show some mercy on us, Hana muttered. You'll get used to it in time, Shikaku said. Don't you want to get strong? Now come on, give me 20 laps of the field. You are crazy, Yugao and Hana muttered at the same time. Naruto was also having a little difficulty but not as much as the other two. Itachi and Shisui had used some weights before for him to train. But these were much heavier, he realized, as he joined his teammates in the run. Some hours later, the three genins were sitting and relaxing quietly after their hard workout session. After running, they had done some shuriken jutsu practice, some taijutsu training, and then decided on their team formation. Ah, I am so tired, Hana muttered. You all did well today. Get used to this from now on. This will be our daily schedule, Shikaku told them and got a glare from Hana and Yugao in return. Naruto looked up at the sky and realized that it was already evening and the sun was going to go down soon. He stood to leave. Where are you going, Naru? Yugao asked. The sun is going to set soon, he answered. So I'm going to enjoy the view as I have nothing else important to do right now. His teammates and sensei looked at him in surprise. Well then, can I come with you? Hana said. I also don't have anything to do now. Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. Hana grinned at him then looked at Yugao. What about you, Yugao? Yugao nodded and looked at their lazy sensei. Come on, sensei, come with us. Troublesome, Shikaku muttered before accepting their offer. It would be good bonding time. Hokage Monument. Wow. Both Hana and Yugao said in awe at the view before them. They were standing on the fourth Hokage's head looking out at the sunset as it ignited their whole village into a fiery work of art. This is so beautiful. I have never seen anything like this in my life, Yugao whispered. I always used to come here with the Hokage to enjoy the view. It's always peaceful here and it's the only place I can talk to him, Naruto said, looking at great stone face of his father. Shikaku and his teammates smiled in response. Shikaku was enjoying the time as well. Just leaving every troublesome thing behind while relaxing was exactly the kind of thing he liked to do. Can I ask you something, Naruto? Yugao said, breaking the silence. Naruto looked at her and nodded. Why didn't you ever talk much in the class? She asked. Naruto thought about his academy days. He'd had his priorities clear from the start even before the academy and he had not been there to have fun or to make friends and nobody had really interested him there. To him, all the other students had seemed to have it so easy and knew nothing of the outside world. He looked at her. There was nothing to talk about and nobody understood me there. They were all living in their fantasy worlds, thinking nothing was wrong in this world. They were not doing anything wrong with that, Shikaku said. That's what they were supposed to do and that's what you were supposed to do. That's why we have an academy to let students make friends before becoming ninja. Then why did you start to talk and hang out with us? Hana asked. Naruto chuckled a little before saying, "You guys were the first ones who came to me to talk without crumbling or just telling me how strong I was or how cute I was, or asking me out on a date. Which girl in her right mind would like to go on a date with you?" Yugao muttered, earning a glare from him. "Are you serious?" Hana said with a surprised look. Naruto nodded. "Why did you want to become kunoichi?" "I am not from any clan and even in my family not many people became shinobi," Yugao answered. "Only my father and grandfather were shinobi. I'm actually the first ever kunoichi from my family. So I wanted to become as strong as possible so I can make my parents proud of me. I also wanted to become a kunoichi to make my mother and my clan proud of me," Hana said. Naruto nodded, not really surprised by their responses. He had already heard that kind of thing from others as well. But at least they were serious with their training and careers. "You know, you always say that you want to become Hokage. But you never mentioned any particular reason," Yugao said. "Is it because of who your ancestors were and wanting to live up to them?" Naruto hesitated to tell them his real reasons. The last time he had told his dreams to his former classmates, they had laughed at him. He wondered if his teammates would understand him. "That's not totally wrong. I want to live up to my predecessors' names. But my main reason is that I want to stop all the fighting in this world." His answer seemed to surprise his teammates. "What do you mean by that, Naruto?" Shikaku asked. Naruto looked ahead towards the setting sun and thought for a moment before he spoke. "I may not have seen any war or anyone dying in front of me. But I know war brings meaningless deaths and suffering. Shinobi kill each other in the name of the village. But to stop that I need power and the people only listen to those who have power. So I want to be the greatest ninja ever, great enough that I can erase all meaningless fighting from this world. And being Hokage will give me the power to do that." "I'm surprised to hear you talk so mature," Shikaku said. "You're only 10 and yet you talk of the shinobi world as if you've experienced it." "Yeah, you sometimes talk really weird," Yugao said. "It's very hard to figure you out. The moment I think I understand you, you go and say something like this." Naruto chuckled a little, but there was some bitterness in it. "I can totally agree with you on that, Yugao," he said. "I don't even know myself up till now. I am still trying to figure myself out. Am I the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, just a village weapon to be used in war, or am I Naruto Uzumaki on whom some people trusted what they had left behind?" He spoke bitterly. So many people expected great things from him, and it felt like a burden. "Stop talking nonsense," Yugao said, glaring at him. "I told you before it doesn't matter if you have a Kyuubi sealed in your gut or if you're the son or great-grandson of the Hokage. You're still your own person, you have your own life in front of you to do what you want, nothing is written in stone and everyone carves their own path. And stop putting so much pressure on yourself because of your family name. The Naru I know will never crack under any pressure. He can overcome anything." Naruto looked at her in surprise and then smiled a moment later. "When did you become this smart, Purple-chan?" Hana and Shikaku smiled at them. "Alright, that's enough, it's getting late," Shikaku said. "Go and rest, you will have a busy day again tomorrow." He wanted to leave as soon as possible because he had some very important topics to discuss with the Hokage. "Don't be late tomorrow," he added before vanishing in the leaves. The Genins looked at each other and then bid each other good night before going their separate ways. Hokage office. "I'm concerned and alarmed by Naruto's thinking," Shikaku said to the Hokage a few minutes later. "These should not be the thoughts of any 10-year-old child. It's not good for Naruto to have these kinds of thoughts." Hokage was troubled at his words. "This is indeed troubling Shikaku. Yeah, he is feeling too much pressure because of so many expectations," Shikaku said. "Keep an eye on him, Shikaku, and don't let him do anything unnecessary." Hiruzen said. "I am worried that Danzo might make a move on him. He always kept a close eye on his progress. I have already informed Naruto about him and told him to be careful. But on the other hand, It's also good that Naruto opened up with his teammates. After the death of Shisui and Itachi going rogue, he has started to act cold and has been closing himself off from people around him. It is good to see that he is overcoming that. Also, his teammates are very understanding, Shikaku said. They tease him, but underneath it all, they always support him. I think they are good for him. Yes, indeed, I am certain now that my decision to put him on a team with those two was the right one. Hiruzen commented with a satisfied smile on his face. Well, that's all I wanted to discuss with you, Shikaku said with a bow. I will be taking my leave now. Hiruzen nodded. Please look after him, Shikaku. Don't worry, I will. Shikaku responded before exiting the office and leaving the elderly Hokage alone. Been 2 months since Naruto graduated from the academy and started doing missions as a genin. His relationship with his teammates has also grown deeper over the time. Of course, Hana and Yugao hadn't stopped making fun of him whenever they got the chance, but Naruto still felt that his team was perfect for him. They always managed to execute their missions without any fuss, and he was glad, because he had no intention of failing. Although he was a little irritated that his team hadn't been sent out on any particularly difficult missions yet. In fact, thinking back on his time as a genin so far, the only difficult mission he could think of was when his team had been assigned to guard a businessman and they ended up facing a group low-rank missing ninja from the Mist Village. Naruto knew that if he was going to become strong and rise up in the ranks as soon as possible, he would need more challenging missions. Because of that, he spent all his free time pouring his heart into polishing his skills under the supervision of his Junin sensei. At the present moment, he was walking with his teammates and sensei back towards their village. They were coming from yet another successfully completed mission. At least the mission had been important, if not difficult. They had been assigned to guard the daimyo of the Land of Fire back towards the capital. The village of Konohagakure was within the territory of the Land of Fire, and the ruler of the Land of Fire was the daimyo. But although the village was located in the Land of Fire, it functioned semi-autonomously, with an independent government structure that had the Hokage at the top. On paper, the daimyo of the Land of Fire was ranked above the Hokage, but currently the land's military power rested with the ninja of Konoha, so the relationship between the two was more like an alliance of equals rather than master and servant. The Land of Fire's daimyo visited Konohagakure annually. This regular event was important for both sides, and had been faithfully held even during the Great War. This mission was a waste of time, Hana was muttering. I was expecting some kind of action in this. Shikaku sighed. The lands have all relaxed now that this is not the war time, so travel between nations is much safer than before, which is why the village can assign this sort of mission to a genin-cantered team. It was still boring, we just wasted our time, she replied with a pout. Guarding the daimyo was a very important job for us, Shikaku said. This time Yugao looked at their sensei with a deadpan stare. How was that mission important to us, sensei? There was still an Anbu squad keeping their eye on things from the shadows. And the daimyo even had his own 12 guardian ninja to protect him. We were just a formality in that mission, nothing more, Naruto stated. Well, if you guys want to put it like that, then yes, Shikaku said with a shrug of his shoulders. The roads are quite safe since the end of the Great War, so a team that has distinguished themselves as the most promising genin team is assigned to guard the daimyo each year. So you guys see, you should all feel proud that the village higher-ups acknowledge our team as the best. Well, if you put it like that, then I don't see anything wrong with it, Naruto responded. Shikaku rolled his eyes. It might be best if we pick up our pace. Otherwise we won't be able to reach the village before nightfall. The three genin nodded at him and proceeded toward the Leaf Village at a fast pace. Some hours later, Team 12 arrived back at Konoha Village. It was still early evening, and after they reported at the main gates of their arrival, they went straight towards the Hokage office to file their mission report. Hokage office. So the trip went without any incident, Hokage said. Yes, nothing major happened, other than some bandits, Shikaku said. But nothing my team couldn't handle. The daimyo was also very pleased with the service he got. Hiruzen nodded and smiled at the genins. You all did well. Guarding the daimyo is a very important task to be assigned to, and your payments will be transferred to your accounts. Now go and rest a little. But come to my office tomorrow early because I have a very important mission for you. The team nodded and bowed before him in respect before exiting the office. What a tiring day it was, Yugao muttered as they walked toward their usual barbecue shop to get something to eat. Their sensei was following behind them with his hands in his pockets. Just then, someone blocked their path by standing in front of Naruto, and Shikaku was immediately on guard. It was a man Naruto had seen with the Hokage many times, but something about him gave off an ominous feeling of darkness that put Naruto on guard too. So are you the Naruto Uzumaki that I've heard so much about? The man asked, looking down on him. The right side of his face was covered by bandages. He was clad in black, but his arm from his left shoulder was exposed, revealing the white robe he wore underneath. His left eye alone glared down at Naruto. Unflinchingly, Naruto met the man's sinister gaze. Behind him, his sensei eyes were narrowed and his other two team members were bristling with tension. You are a bearer of bad luck, boy, the man stated without any emotion. Bad luck? Naruto asked, his face equally unreadable. Your birth led to the village destruction and even led to your parents' deaths. The man then pointed toward Naruto's stomach. Chaos will follow you throughout your life. That is your destiny and you can't change it. Chaos will follow you throughout your life. Who exactly was this man? Naruto thought. What do you want, Danzo? Shikaku said, glaring at him. I just wanted to meet young Naruto here since I've heard so much about him. As Danzo spoke, his eyes didn't leave Naruto. They say you're the most talented and gifted shinobi, one who only comes once in a generation. I have a question for you, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto looked at him silently and waited for the man to continue. 10 of our brethren have been shipwrecked. Danzo said. One of them has caught a nasty, infectious disease. If he is allowed to live, the other 9 will also get sick and die. If you were the captain of that ship, what judgment would you hand down? Without hesitation, Naruto offered a response. No matter what happened, the one who is sick is destined to die. If I were the captain, I would think that my first priority would be to save the lives of the other 9. I would choose to kill the one and save the 9. A bold smile crossed Danzo's face. A very unambiguous response. He moved toward Naruto and whispered as he passed. I look forward to the day we meet again, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto felt the malicious echo of the man's voice sully his heart with darkness. Naruto, Shikaku said, bringing Naruto out his thoughts. I don't like that man, Yugao muttered, looking at Naruto in concern. His chakra made me feel sick. Who was he, sensei? Hana asked. I had seen that man in Hokage's office and he gives me the shivers. Danzo Shimura, Shikaku said, his voice dark as he looked at the man's departing back. He's a close aide of the 3rd. Danzo's words lingered in the air and Naruto felt a sharp pain in his chest. Placing a hand where it ached, Naruto stared at the man's back as he walked away, until the pain disappeared. He turned to his sensei. Sensei, what does he mean by, chaos will follow me throughout my life? Shikaku looked at Naruto and put a hand on his shoulder. Don't pay too much attention to what he said, Naruto. Just keep your distance from that man. Hokage-sama had already warned you about him, I think. Naruto nodded, but long after, still couldn't get Danzo's words out of his mind. This must be the Danzo that Itachi had once mentioned. Naruto suddenly became sure that this man had something to do with the Uchiha clan massacre. He continued his walk with his teammates toward the restaurant, but his mind couldn't shake the meeting. He had to find out more about that man. Hokage office. The next morning, Team 12 was standing in front of the Hokage building, waiting Shikaku. Finally, minutes later, their lazy Junin sensei arrived, and they all went inside to the Hokage's office to get their mission. Hiruzen smiled and greeted them. Good, you're all here. As I said, I have a mission for you. Probably it will be something boring again, Yugao muttered in a low voice to her teammates. Hiruzen chuckled and spoke. No, Yugao-chan, it's an important mission about village security, AB rank and bordering on A rank. Then he got serious and handed a file to Shikaku. Shikaku read the name of a person on the file. Mizuki, an academy instructor and a Chunin rank shinobi. What about him? A few months back, his two teammates died on a simple B rank mission, Hiruzen explained. Upon inspecting their bodies, we found there was no major injury which could result in their deaths, and we found that they both died by suffocating. This left us to suspect Mizuki was behind it, so without his knowing, we monitored his activities and found that he is providing secret information to the village enemy. This doesn't sound like a mission that Genin should be involved with, Shikaku said. Hiruzen nodded. That is true, but all the Anbu and Junin I can spare are out of the village. As you know, with the loss of the Uchiha clan, our forces have been left weakened. Your team is the only other one that can handle this type of mission. So what do we have to do? Naruto asked, satisfied that they finally had what sounded like a challenging mission, even if it was only a B rank. Hiruzen looked at him. Investigate what kind of information he is supplying to the enemy and arrest him for his crime against the village. But make sure that he is captured alive for interrogation. So how are we going to go with this mission? Hana asked as they all stood at the top of the administrative building after the meeting. It's morning now, which means that Mizuki will be at the academy, Shikaku said. It gives us an opportunity to search his house. But we also have to keep an eye on him. Hana and I will go to his house. Naruto and Yugao will keep monitoring his movements from the shadows. The Genins nodded in agreement. But don't make any move on him until I get back, Shikaku then said. A moment later, Shikaku gave the command and then vanished with Hana. A moment later, Naruto and Yugao moved towards the academy to do their part of the mission. Ninja Academy. Naruto and Yugao arrived near the academy and hid themselves in the trees so they could look inside the class through its windows. Iruka stood at the front of a group of 7-year-olds. Their target had white shoulder-length hair, with a slight blue to it, and green eyes. He wore the standard uniform of Konoha-nin, which included a Chunin flak jacket and a forehead protector that he wore like a bandana. Why are there two instructors in the same class? Naruto asked his partner in confusion. I heard the academy system is changed this year, Yugao said. It's a lot easier now and the early graduation is banned because of what happened with the Uchiha clan. Naruto nodded. He knew that a lot of things had changed in the village after Itachi massacred the Uchiha clan. You were quite lucky that they let you graduate early, Naru, Yugao commented as she looked at him. The village was in need of more shinobi because of the threat of war, with all the things happening at that time. You know, there was the attempted kidnapping of the Hyuga heiress by Cloud Shinobi, and also a Eva spy was found in the village, Naruto said. Yugao nodded. Naruto knew she had also been offered a chance to graduate a year early, but her parents didn't approve. She then smirked. Naru, what if somebody tried to kidnap me? What would you do? Naruto looked at her, but just shrugged his shoulders and took a thinking pose. He didn't want to give her the answer she was looking for, so he said with a smirk of his own. I think I would be very thankful, and I'd even help whoever was trying to kidnap you. I mean, if you're gone, then I would have one less thing to worry about. Yugao glared at him and turned her head away. Seeing her expression, Naruto chuckled. It was always him at the receiving end. But he had learned one or two things by being around her and Hana. They continued their mission seriously after that, and if they hadn't already known, they would never suspect him for a spy. He was polite with every student in the class. And just by looking, they both could see that Iruka and Mizuki were good friends who had known each other for a long time. Half of the day went by just like that, both genin following Mizuki from the shadows, but they saw nothing that could highlight him as a danger for the village. But Naruto knew never to judge a person on appearance with the kind of world they lived in. Some moments later, the other two members of the team joined them, and Yugao asked, "Did you guys find anything valuable?" "Not just anything. That guy has full information on our Anbu and regular forces." "That guy is a rat," Hana responded seriously. "Did anything happen here?" Shikaku asked. Yugao shook her head. "Everything's normal." Shikaku nodded. "We have all the evidence we need. But we should also look into if he was working with someone from inside the village or if he was alone in all this." Now together, all four watched Iruka and Mizuki coming out to the academy grounds with all the students behind them. "Hey sensei, that black-haired half-sleepy kid, standing with my brother, looks a lot like you," Hana pointed out. "Troublesome. He is my son, Shikamaru," Shikaku informed them. They heard Iruka speaking to the kids and informing them of the rules of sparring. Iruka then started calling out pairs for the spar one by one. "Alright, now Shikamaru versus Choji, please come forward." The genins up in the trees saw their sensei's son and a chubby-looking kid come forward to stand in the circle. As Iruka was going through the rules, the chubby kid raised his hand and said, "So sensei." "Yes, what is it, Choji?" Iruka asked. "The thing is, I really don't wanna fight against my friends, you know," the kid said. Iruka smiled. "Well, look Choji, this isn't like a fight. This is traditional shinobi hand-to-hand combat. Even our Hokage and those before him participated and became strong through sparring." As Iruka was giving his lecture, Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders and started walking off the field. "Yeah, look sensei, just go ahead and put that I won by being out of bounds, okay? Then you can move on to the next pair," Shikamaru said. "Hey, wait." Iruka tried to stop him. "You might be calling this fight training or whatever. But if there is gonna be a winner, then it's actually a match, and since that's the case, wouldn't it save you some trouble to decide who wins from the start?" Shikamaru spoke. The genins in the trees looked at their sensei. Yugao spoke. "He is your son sensei. He really doesn't have any motivation," Hana commented with a chuckle. "Troublesome," was the only response from Shikaku they got. Later, after nightfall, the team followed Mizuki as he walked toward the forest. They had already informed the Hokage of their findings and had been ordered to arrest Mizuki as soon as possible. Their plan was to ambush him in the forest, away from the village. Shikaku had told them they would be doing the arrest on their own, and he would be keeping watch on them from behind. As they moved deeper into the forest and came to stop at the clearing, they noticed another person was already there practicing. It was Iruka, and they realized that they couldn't make a move in front of Iruka. So they remained hidden, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Iruka, what are you doing here, at this time?" Mizuki questioned. Iruka turned around to look at him in surprise. "Oh, it's you Mizuki. I came to train here, but I'm just finishing now." He then went to sit on the nearby log. Mizuki sat beside him. "So how's the academy so far?" Iruka asked. "Are you enjoying your time there?" "The academy is alright, but teaching those brats in the class is really annoying sometimes," Mizuki responded. Iruka laughed at that. "They are not that bad and some of them are quite talented. They are still annoying to me," Mizuki responded. "Don't worry, it'll improve, with time," Iruka said. Mizuki shrugged his shoulders. "You must be pretty high in Hokage-sama's opinion, to let you teach a class full of clan heirs. So who would you pick up as the strongest out of all of them?" "I can't compare my students with each other like that. But if I had to pick one, I guess I'd go with one of the students from my last batch. I have never seen a student like him in my entire career, I can't even compare him with anyone else. He was in a league of his own." "Who was he?" Mizuki asked in surprise. "His name is Naruto Uzumaki. He graduated from the academy this year," Iruka responded, and even from their vantage point, the genin could see the hate radiating from Mizuki. But Iruka appeared not to sense it. The Kyuubi boy, Mizuki said, his voice dark. Iruka's face registered surprise. This was also the first time Team 12 had heard him say something different than his normal polite way. Don't joke like that, Iruka. He doesn't even deserve to be a shinobi. I don't understand why Hokage allowed such a thing like that to be one. Iruka stood up and looked at Mizuki in anger. He is not a thing, Mizuki. He is a very kind-hearted boy, who had things hard while growing up, and he didn't even let other people's opinions affect him. Mizuki just waved him off. You don't have to put up an act in front of me, Iruka. I understand, you just pretended that in front of the Hokage, to get on his good side. You had to be the one who hated him the most. After all, isn't he the one who killed your parents in the attack? But one day I am going to kill that demon, Iruka. As this was going on, Naruto continued to observe his target carefully. What Mizuki thought about him didn't matter to him. Mizuki was a traitor and Naruto was going to make him pay for it. Iruka tightened his fist and punched Mizuki hard in the face. I can never see you as my friend from now. I never could have thought that you would be this kind of person. And you will never touch Naruto. Mizuki chuckled darkly and touched his jaw. Are you seriously fighting me over that monster? The fourth Hokage gave us the chance to kill the demon by sealing it away, and that demon is just waiting for a chance to strike. That's what monsters do. Naruto is the most talented shinobi I have ever seen. But he is also a very hard-working kid. He knows the pain of others. He is not a monster. He is Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure, Iruka declared. Haha. Ha 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 ha. Mizuki laughed madly. You're so pathetic, Iruka, siding with the monster. You're useless to me now. I needed power, so I told you to request the Hokage on my behalf to let me serve in academy. But now that I have the information I need, I should just kill you here. And with sudden speed, he launched some kunai at Iruka. Iruka's reaction looked surprised and slow with fatigue, and before he could do more than dodge, Mizuki summoned a large windmill shuriken and threw it towards him. Iruka knew he wouldn't be able to dodge this one in time, and expected the killing blow any second. But the pain never came, because in a flicker of speed, the boy with blonde hair was suddenly standing in front of him, his back facing him. It was Naruto. You are under arrest for your crimes against the village, Mizuki. Give up. You have nowhere to go, you're surrounded now. Naruto's voice held no emotion. Mizuki appeared shocked from the sudden appearance. At Naruto's words, his teammates appeared beside him, and behind Mizuki, 3 ninja dogs stood growling at him ready for attack. Look who we have here, Naruto Uzumaki, what a lucky day I have. Mizuki laughed loudly. Naruto, would you like me to tell you one of the secrets about yourself? The reason why so many grown-ups in the village hate you? Naruto only looked at him. He understood what Mizuki was trying to do. He was trying to shake him up emotionally so that he could have a chance against him and his team. But Naruto wasn't that weak. You were told that the fourth killed the Kyuubi. But that's not true. Instead he sealed it in a baby, and that was you, Naruto. You're the Kyuubi that attacked the village 10 years ago. Mizuki shouted the words but seemed surprised by the lack of emotion on Naruto's face. Come quietly, or we'll have to use force against you, Naruto said very calmly. Ha ha. Mizuki chuckled. You really are a demon. You can't even show emotions on your face. But don't worry, I will kill you and the others here. You're all no match for me. After all, I am Chunin and you're all genin. I will be held as a hero for killing the demon. Surprising everyone, Mizuki suddenly launched shuriken after shuriken towards Naruto, who was surprised by the sudden attack and couldn't block in time. As countless shuriken stabbed him in every part of his body without pausing, Mizuki raced towards Naruto and drove a kunai into his belly, laughing loudly. Blood jetted out of Naruto's mouth, and the others could only watch in horror. Mizuki yanked his kunai out and took a half step back before immediately plunging it through the crown of Naruto's head. I killed the demon, he shouted with crazed laughter. But his laughter turned to shock when Naruto burst open in black feathers. Each and every one of the black feathers then transformed into crows and started to peck the head of Mizuki. Naruto had performed the substitution jutsu at the last moment. Countless crows assaulted his enemy. Mizuki cried out, surrounded by a crowd of beaks so dense that there was no opening for him to flee. The enemy has been caught neatly in Naruto's clone technique. Now, Naruto shouted from the tree above. Far from the flock of crows, looking down, he could see Mizuki shrieking. He also noticed Yugao and Hana standing stunned in their places, not moving. Tears were falling from Yugao's eyes. Realizing the situation, Shikaku quickly jumped down and was performed hand seals for shadow binding. The Junin then clocked Mizuki into unconsciousness. Naruto then quickly leapt down from his branch. Very well done, Naruto. Shikaku complimented him and patted his head, then went towards Iruka to check on him. Hana came out of shock and sent a glare at Naruto. Yugao, on the other hand, kept looking at him and walked up to him and punched him hard in his gut, knocking the wind out him. Idiot, I thought that he had killed you. Naruto composed himself, then looked at her with a smile and spoke. I am all right, Yugao, that was just a clone of me. Jerk. Don't ever do something like that ever again, she muttered as she passed him. Then he also walked up to Iruka. Iruka smiled. You have gotten stronger from before, Naruto. Thanks for saving my life. It was no problem, sensei. I am happy that you're safe, Naruto responded with a small smile. Come on, let's get going. We have to report our mission to Hokage-sama, Shikaku said and supported Iruka to stand up.